Hey, how's it going?
Good, good. So good to be back. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Hi, this is Resident of Collinwood. I'm here with at I under slash Barnabas. We're here to discuss all three Dark Shadows movies. And so it's up as loud as it's going to go. So they're both up. Both volumes are up. But thank you. Uh, my wife was helping me out there. So yeah, it's as loud as it's going to go. Um, so I'll let you have the floor first, man. I was seeing a couple of your tweets. You were saying about House of Dark Shadows and Night of Dark Shadows. I'm going to let you have the floor first.
Oh, okay. Well, let's talk about it. When did you see House of Dark Shadows for the first time? Was that the first one that you saw?
Yeah, it's weird how I saw these. I saw Night of Dark Shadows first, and
Okay.
I was really impressed with what they did. I know that's sort of an unfinished product in some ways, but I liked what they did. I watched Night of Dark Shadows, I want to say on TNT's Monster Vision first. I didn't see
Oh,
House
I
of Dark
remember that.
Shadows until a full 2 years later on Turner Classic Movies. And it was so crazy that I was like, so they actually did do a movie with Barnabas with Jonathan for its character. I liked both movies. To me, I do like Night of Dark Shadows more than probably most because I feel Night is more its own story, even though Night isn't, in a sense, it's not a finished product. What about you? When's the first time you saw these movies, man?
Okay, with me, I saw House of Dark Shadows first. I had a VHS that I found. This was when I was living in West Virginia, and um, we actually didn't have internet where I lived. I lived in the southern part where there are a lot of mountains, and we actually didn't get internet until 2012, so I didn't have a way of seeing it because it didn't come out on DVD until 2012 when the Tim Burton movie came out. But I had a VHS copy and I found it at a Big Lots, and I think I paid maybe $3 or $4 for it. And as luck would have it, I watched it a few minutes and my VCR went out. And I'd had it since I was a kid. And at that moment, I guess it just wasn't meant for me to watch it. So years and years went by, probably almost 10 years. And we got internet, and I had a PlayStation 3, and I found that it was on PlayStation Network. So I bought the movie for $10, and I watched the digital copy of it, and I had lukewarm feelings on it on the first watch. Um, it, it was so different than the show and everything that I was used to Dark Shadows being, because when I started watching the show, I started right at the end of Leviathans and in parallel time, and this was wildly different than the show. It was a lot. Um, I'd like to say that the show to me was like rock and roll, and this kind of went into a little bit heavy metal with its darkness, and how gory this thing was. So um, it was a lot scarier than I thought it was going to be. It was pretty frightening, and I mean, not that that's a bad thing. Um, it was just a very very jarring watch at first because it I was completely not expecting what I got, and then afterwards I loved every time that I watched it. Um, but that was the first time I watched House of Dark Shadows was in 2012, and then for Christmas I got a PlayStation Network card and I got Night of Dark Shadows, which I like that one better. Um, I do like that one most for the same reasons you said. It's its own story. It feels a little more original. I love the music and the atmosphere of that movie. It's a lot brighter and unique, where it's a horror movie that's it's mostly set in the daytime, which is not something you see very often. Um, I know Midsummer did that, the movie that came out this year, but um, I thought it was cool that to have a horror movie like that that was as good as it was set during the day. Um, but I've watched Night of Dark Shadows a lot more than I have House of Dark Shadows. I love both of them very, very much, but I am leaning more towards Night, even though it's, like you said, an incomplete film. I do prefer it. I love the mood, the atmosphere, uh, the music, everything, and that's just great for me. It's one of my favorite horror movies ever made.
You have a theory you were saying about on Twitter about how the both movies connect with each other. Can we hear that?
I'm sure there was okay with Night of Dark Shadows because it's really one that you have to pay attention to.
Hmm.
Um, with House of Dark Shadows, it's a movie that, like, especially if you've seen it before, you could watch it, walk away, go do something, run to the store, whatever, come back, and you've not really missed a whole lot. It's a vampire movie. They're trying to figure out who the vampire is. You find out early on that, I mean, everyone finds out kind of early that it's Barnabas, and you can come right back into it and not really miss anything. With Night of Dark Shadows, you have to pay close attention to that movie, and I learn something new every time I watch it. But there was a line that Julia Hoffman's character says where she was talking about Elizabeth, um, and she said the last mistress of the house enjoyed tea every year before or she said she enjoyed tea. I think it was every evening before she died last year. And so I took
Hmm.
it as that was a sentence that, I mean, it's a throwaway line, but maybe how it was connected. But I wrote, I did write like a 3-chapter fan fiction of how I thought, a good way that the movies could connect. Um, just kind of filling in a gap. It's not canon. It was just something that came out of my own thoughts. Um, but yeah, I mean, as far as in movie, that was really, you could take it or leave it, but that was something that Julia Hoffman's character said in Night of Dark Shadows that um, Elizabeth liked to have tea every evening, and that was a tradition that she had before she died last year. So that's just my takeaway on it. That maybe they are connected, and since Carlotta, which is I couldn't think of her name, Carlotta really restored the house because in House of Dark Shadows, the house was a shambles most of the time. The lights were off in most of the rooms, and the whole point of Night of Dark Shadows was Carlotta wanted to restore the house to the way it was and have everything back the way it was in the 1800s when Angelique was alive. And so, I mean, you can kind of fill in the gaps if you want to, or you can view them as two separate movies. Um, no answer is the wrong answer, but to me, I like to think that they're connected.
I like the connection, man. That's a hell of a theory to
Yeah.
have. I mean,
Hmm.
I'm you've listened to my videos. I feel every fan should have their own theory, and that's one hell of a theory to have.
Hmm.
What what were your thoughts? I do want to ask you a question. What were
Sure.
your thoughts on them bringing back pretty much every cast member for these movies?
I love that. It was to me, House of Dark Shadows was very much a reunion. I mean, they had almost every single character or main character in the show, and even if it was just a small role, like Hubbard Allen Estrada was a doctor, and I think he only had like one line that was maybe a few words. But and Lisa Richards, she was the girl that was Barnabas' first victim in the movie. Um, it was great seeing everyone back together for this project, and I love. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Seaview Mansion is great in the show, but there's something about the Lyndhurst Mansion where they film the movies. It's I actually like that location better. Maybe it's because I was lucky and I got to go there about 5 years ago during one of the festivals, and I love that house. And now that I've actually seen it in person, there's just something special about that house and the setting. I really love the castle, and I love the sets, and that was just cool that they brought them to everyone together for a big screen movie. How about you? What did you think about it?
I'm with you. I love the location of this. I love both themes are unique. The atmosphere. I don't feel like when I watch House of Dark Shadows, the atmosphere is more of a, to me, it's more of a supernatural slash gothic setting to where Night of Dark Shadows, it's like you're completely doomed to get out of this house setting.
Yeah,
That's how I felt when I watched Night of Dark Shadows, and I still feel that way. It's like, and when I watch
yeah,
like David Selby drive up, I'm like, just turn the car around, just just turn it
right,
around.
exactly,
You know,
exactly. And
my
it was so
favorite.
frustrating. Oh, go ahead. I'm so sorry.
No, no, no. My favorite scene. I love the cemetery they use in House of Dark Shadows. I thought that was much more creepy than what the series
Oh,
had
yeah.
offered.
Yeah, that was the Sleepy Hollow Cemetery where, and we went with the group and they took us on a tour through that cemetery, and we got to see the mausoleum where Barnabas was, and I had my picture taken with it, and we got to see Washington Irving's grave. I mean, and that cemetery is enormous, and I mean they were giving out maps to everyone because I mean it's so easy to get lost there, but there was definitely a creep factor while we were there, other than just the normal you're in the cemetery. Um, that was a great location to pick. I really liked that they were there.
What were your thoughts on them using the sort of the Maggie Evans storyline for House of Dark Shadows?
Um, it was okay. I mean, I liked it. I mean, I think definitely Catherine Lee Scott looked her best in that movie. She was absolutely gorgeous. That era where they were ushering in the '70s fashion. That was definitely all her. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I liked it, but I've always been, and I can't help it. I've always been of a mind where I liked Victoria as, or Alexandra particularly, as Barnabas' love interest, and I always thought that Alexandra looked more like Josette in the portrait on the TV show than Catherine Lee Scott did. But um, I mean, I was fine with it because I mean that's what the show ended up doing anyway. Um, but I was okay with it, but I would have preferred it being Alexandra in the role rather than Catherine Lee Scott. But that was just me. But I think for what they had, it worked just fine.
I liked how they introduced her coming up the steps as the governess. I'm like,
Hmm.
it felt a lot like the series when they did it that way in a sense. But the one thing I'll point out with House of Dark Shadows, more so than Night of Dark Shadows, there aren't too many vampire movies in the '70s that Hammer Studios did not make, and
Right.
House of Dark Shadows was one that they did not make. And I found it very, for those who have watched a Hammer film, I mean, it's pretty much like House of Dark Shadows. But to,
Exactly.
but to me, House of Dark Shadows is probably the greatest film Hammer didn't make, which is
I agree. It's by far my favorite vampire film.
right. It's odd that you don't see Hammer on the title.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on that? Them, you know, Hammer not making this film. You think they let it get away from them, or
I think so, but I think that was really, I guess, at Hammer's peak when you had Christopher Lee and Peter And as everyone knows, Dan Curtis can take, someone else's idea, renovate it, and really run with it, just like he did a lot of the storylines in Dark Shadows. But I'm sure that he probably saw a lot of the Hammer films and took this idea because, this was the story of Barnabas that he wanted to tell in the beginning before Barnabas became so popular and they wanted to keep him alive during the show. And I think that, a light went off and was like, hey, this is, I like the look and the style of the Hammer films, and this is the story of Barnabas that I wanted to tell. So why not mix the two? And I think he made a great movie.
Yeah, I really think I've seen his Dracula. I prefer House of Dark Shadows over his Dracula. I'm
Oh,
not,
me too.
I'm not
I do too.
saying I would not. I'm not sitting here saying his Dracula is a bad film. It's not. It's very good. But if I had to pick between the two vampire stories, I'm picking House of Dark Shadows.
Oh, same here. Same here. And Jonathan, I mean, God bless him, Jack Palance was a great actor, but I think that as a vampire, Jonathan Fritz, you just can't beat that.
It, I'll give a Jack Palance film some people do know about that I really liked him in. It's called The Professionals. It's a western. He plays a revolutionary who's being who apparently has kidnapped a wife of this rich guy, and this rich guy hires these mercenaries to go after his character. It's a really interesting film. Has a unique twist to it. Um, but so, what were your thoughts of Night of Dark Shadows? Why do you think we'll ever get the complete version of it?
Uh, that's really hard. I think. Okay, here's how I feel about it. I thought that we had a really good chance when the 2012 movie came out, and there was a lot of hype around the movie, and a lot of fans found out about it, about the, just like that was my first time seeing Night of Dark Shadows. I think it skipped a few generations. Like the show, we got it you know, in syndication on TV in the 80s, and we got um, when I joined on was on the Sci-Fi Channel in the 90s. It was very rare that we would ever get House or Night of Dark Shadows. And then when the 2012 movie came out, it came out on DVD and Blu-ray, and I think a lot of people like me were introduced to it to the first time, and a lot of people were wanting it then. And then as the movie was unsuccessful, um, I think a lot of those cries for the unreleased footage kind of died down with it. And I'm hoping that with this new series, that if it takes off, that there will be enough, fan noise again to demand the you know, this unreleased footage. I've always wanted it to be released. I've tweeted about it many, many times, but I'm hoping if this new series catches on, um, that we'll get enough noise from the fans, and it will be released just like the Richard Donner cut was with Superman 2. Um, with the hype around Superman Returns, that a lot of people demanded it and wanted it. They were excited about it, and um, Warner Brothers went and settled a lot of things with the Brando estate, and they got it in motion. So hopefully, the same thing might happen with this one.
Yeah, I think if they finish this, if they put in the scenes that aren't in there, I think you're gonna get a lot better product for fans to watch. Night of Dark Shadows is a very we love it. It's a very underrated movie, and I'll tell you who
Yeah,
steals it. For my opinion, who steals that movie, and she stole the series too, Laura Parker.
I agree. I agree 100%. That was her movie.
Yeah.
That was her movie.
What did you think of her just as a character? I mean, she's sort of playing Angelique, but she's not playing the Angelique that Barnabas knows.
I felt like she was a more intimidating character, and I read somewhere, I Scott's book where she talked about uh, the filming of both movies. Um, she that Laura Parker kind of stayed away from everyone. She was method acting in this movie. That she kind of stayed away from everyone and isolated herself from everyone, so that when she would, come to set, she would be more intimidating. And I felt like she really turned up the witchiness on this because, it wasn't because of jealousy of Barnabas. She was just a witch and evil because she could be. And I felt like without that, it really showed a difference, a darker side of Angelique that we're used to, that's undone by love. And this, she wanted Charles for herself, and just because she could. She wasn't. I wouldn't say that she was really in love with him like she was Barnabas on the show, but she really was much darker in this movie, just in my opinion.
No, she was, and I love how the darkness goes with the seduction of her character in this movie. She's seductively dark. She's using her body in this movie in ways I felt at times she sometimes would use in the series, but again, censorship wouldn't allow that. But
Right.
here they get away with it, and thank God. I mean, she has no problem God, she would have no problem seducing anyone, but
I
you know,
agree.
but she has no problem seducing Quentin. And if I was
No.
Quentin, I'd be like, yeah, yeah, let's go. Hey, you know.
Right.
But she's amazing in this movie. What were your thoughts on John Carlin and Nancy Barrett in Night of Dark Shadows?
Um, there wasn't. I mean, I liked them. It was nice seeing. It was a different take on what we're used to seeing John Carlin as. As the Renfield of the Dark Shadows story. So it was cool getting to see him just as a straight guy. Um, I mean, there wasn't anything particularly standout about he and Nancy Barrett, but it was nice seeing them. I thought they made a good couple. Um, they were enjoyable, and
I really think I do know they did some stuff with his character in the movie. I do wish they would have did a little more. Um, a tad. Maybe that's in the scenes that were taken out. I don't know. And again, I think this. I love what they do with him when he's on screen. He does do very, very well. He always does. But I do wish they would have done. And again, I don't know because again, I've not seen that other footage. And then again, we're hoping one day they will go back and add that on. I just wish they would have did more with him and Nancy as characters because it felt like there was more there to them. Oh, uh oh, we lost somebody. And it's gonna kick me off. Yeah, I know that. That's not right. Skype Wi-Fi went off. The power went completely off. That's not good. Oh my god. Hold on, folks. We're getting stuff back here. I'm not cutting this video because my stuff's starting to come back on here. Give me a second. Sorry about this. It just literally my internet just went dead. So I don't know what. Okay, there we go. Stuff's trying to still come back on, guys. Sorry about this. This is just how it is sometimes. Hello?
So I'm so sorry. I had to go back in and find a place to plug it up really quickly.
No, internet actually cut off there when we were talking there about Willie Loomis. So I apologize about that. Um, I was asking you if you can still hear me. Um, what did you? I was saying about that. I wish they would have had more scenes with John and Nancy's character. I felt there was more there. What are you? Hello.
Hey, I'm so sorry. My phone went dead, and I had to find a place to go plug it up. I'm so sorry about that.
Oh no! Listen, things happen on Skype all the time.
Right?
It wouldn't be a DS
I'm so
video,
sorry.
man. Bloopers, bloopers, doc.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So
Uh,
we started talking about Angelique, and then my phone went out. So that's a little ominous there.
Laura Parker's pre-listening to this video. That's what it is. But,
Ex- exactly.
but now, what were your? Do you wish if they get this done, if they get Night of Dark Shadows redone? I was saying about, I wish John and Nancy would have had more scenes, and
Yeah.
I felt there was more to their characters. Do you think we get that if they add these extra scenes?
I would hope so because I've not seen the deleted footage. I had heard that like the big climax of the movie was there was a séance and they were involved in it. So I would hope at least with that in the ending climax that was removed, that we could get something there. But I'm sure that we would get more to them than what we did get.
So, I mean, we love House of Dark Shadows. We love Night of Dark Shadows. And now we're going to talk about the 2012 Tim Burton Dark Shadows movie starring Johnny Depp. What were your thoughts about this seeing this?
Um, my first viewing of it, I actually had better feelings about it than I did after I thought about the movie, and then because I only got to see it in the theater once, and then the more I thought about it, it kind of soured on me, and I started watching. Like I said, we had just gotten the internet there, so I had just gotten Netflix, and Netflix had part of the episodes of Dark Shadows. And the more I kept watching the show, I was like, this movie really missed. Um, just in my opinion, this movie really missed the mark a lot. And I kept thinking about different things. And I got the Blu-ray for Christmas, and the more I watched it, it it just I just kept finding a lot of things wrong with it. Um, and I just didn't really care that much for it, and I started getting where when I would watch it, I found myself nitpicking a lot of things all the way through. It started off great. I loved the whole Victoria Winters on the train, and then after that, to me, it just all went downhill from there and just kind of fell apart. But I will say that it's a beautiful movie. The sets, the locations, the color palette of everything. I think it is a beautiful movie. You know, I'm not going to rake it across the coals. I'm going to give it, you know, the positives that it's due. I think it's a beautiful movie.
Yeah, the look of the movie is very nice from a just a set standpoint. It looks good.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And I thought the score for the most part was really good. I thought Danny Elfman did a good job with the music. I loved the music that played the theme when it showed someone going to Widow job with the score. And even the rock songs that they picked out, just on the regular soundtrack, for the most part, it was pretty good. But oh, that script, oh, that poor script, oh,
You
it
have been
hurts.
making some great points about Michelle Pfeiffer and Eva Green's chemistry together. Would you mind making those points here?
Sure, I thought that with Michelle Pfeiffer, to me, I think she, I can't say for sure, but I think she really got a lot of movements of Joan Bennett down, and a lot of the looks and the way that when Joan Bennett she would kind of glide across the room. She was almost always wearing, those long dresses, and she would kind of keep her back turned, and she would always turn like one eye over when she was talking to someone. And I think she got a lot of her body language, her body movements and stuff down. And I thought she carried herself well as Elizabeth Stoddard. And Eva Green, that woman can play damaged. I've seen her in several other movies, and I think she was a great casting choice for Angelique. I couldn't think of anyone else that would that could top her for being Angelique, for playing that character. Um, I mean, of course, Eva Green is beautiful like Laura Parker. She doesn't have the eyes of Laura Parker, but I think that she was a really good choice. I thought that she played what she was given very well. She plays broken and damaged really well, and I thought she was a great choice. But uh, it's just a shame when you see a not so good script wasted on great actors who would be great for the parts that they were cast for.
Yeah, it's weird that you have almost a who's who who's in this movie. I mean, Johnny Depp, Michelle Pfeiffer, Eva Green, Jackie Earl Haley, who played Freddy Krueger in the
Right,
Nightmare remake. It just Alice Cooper makes a cameo. I actually, when I heard he was going to be in this movie, a
hmm,
friend of mine told me, and I said, "Well, is he going to play?" I thought maybe they were going to cast him to play Barnabas's father, and they would tell a proper story. And I said,
right,
if they cast him or Ozzy Osbourne to play Barnabas's father, I'm for it. To me, that's who should be Barnabas's dad. you know,
hmm,
but
exactly.
no, it was just, and I hate when I love Alice Cooper to death. I love his music, but I hate when people waste people's talent. And to me, them just cameoing him was wasting his talent. I was wasting his
Yeah,
time. Um,
yeah,
that's my not my biggest gripe with it, but it's one of my many. I'm with you. I
hmm,
love Evergreen and Michelle Pfeiffer's chemistry. They make that movie watchable, just them.
yeah,
And
right.
I like I
And
like Jackie Earl's Willie Loomis. He's good, but he's not
yeah,
on screen enough to matter. And that's
exactly.
what I mean. That's another. I do wish they would have made him matter a little more. He's supposed to be this dirty henchman for Barnabas, and he
Right,
sort of is. He's not John Carlin. He's his own Willie Loomis.
right.
And
And the same thing with Chloe Grace Moretz. I mean, she's the poster child for teenage angst. If you've seen anything that she's ever been in, and who better than someone like that to play Carolyn? And she's, like you said, she's not got more than a couple of scenes, except at the end they just decide to make her a werewolf because reasons. So, and the same thing with Victoria. She gets off to a great start in the movie, and you have the interview, uh, Michelle Pfeiffer interviewing her, and then you really don't see her, like, except in bits and pieces, um, until the end when she's getting ready to walk off Widow's Hill. And it's cast like this about a family, and each, you know, from the show, each family member had a lot of layers to them and development, and you have 2 hours to develop a whole cast. I mean, it's a tough job, but oh man, they just, like you said, Willie Loomis and them, they're hardly seen in the movie. A lot of things are just played off for gags, and a lot of the humor for me just didn't work. The whole fish out of water thing, I mean, I can see it at first when Barnabas first comes to modern day Collinsport, but I mean, to keep doing it through the whole movie, it just falls flat, just for me anyway.
Right. If you're gonna have someone wake up in a modern day world, and they came from another century, sure, they're gonna be lost in a sense,
Right,
but they're not gonna
right,
be so dumbfounded that they're not gonna get it, and that's the thing. That's
right. They
that's a
really
great
dumbed him down a lot.
right. That's a great point you just made. I think that sort of defines this movie in many ways. It's not. And look, I want people to understand who are listening to us here today. If you're a fan of this movie, great. Love it.
That's exactly right.
We're
And you
we're
know,
I don't
go
want
ahead. I'm
people
sorry.
to, and for people who troll the 2012 fans, stop it. Like seriously,
Exactly,
you know.
exactly.
But I think, and let me ask you this: who do you think was in 2012 the movie? Who do you think was the most wasted character of them all?
Um, I would have to say Barnabas, because
Mm,
Barnabas was a very, very deep and tragic character, and I felt like they really dumbed him down a lot, and they played the fish out of water thing through the whole movie, and I didn't really feel much of anything for him. I didn't feel sorry for him. You know, I felt sorry for Jonathan Frid. Yeah, I mean, he made a mistake, but did he deserve the curse that he got? You know, no. He made a mistake with Angelique, but you know, he wasn't the best at trying to make up for it and, make amends. But I don't think he deserved his curse, so I felt pity for him. This Barnabas, I didn't, and I really felt that they really missed the mark with him. And a close second would be Julia Hoffman.
mm. I'm gonna switch this a little bit. I'm gonna give.
Okay.
I like Julia. I'm gonna stick with Julia for number two. My number one's Roger Collins. I felt they wasted a lot of time, basically doing
Hmm.
nothing with him. And I mean,
Yeah,
literally, not nothing. That's not an exaggeration. Nothing.
yeah. He made a joke about balls, smoked a joint, and then they threw him out. They were done with him. So that's Roger Collins,
It,
2012, everyone.
when I
So
you ever see the movie Shane where Brandon DeWitt is hollering, "Come back, Shane, come back"? Well,
no, I haven't.
when Roger Collins gets tossed out the house, I'm like, "Come back, Roger, come back."
Exactly,
That's what I was
exactly.
doing. I was like, they didn't do nothing with him. But
They did.
yeah, that's for anyone who's seen that movie Shane, go or hasn't, go check it out. It's worth a watch. But
Okay, cool.
definitely is one to check out. Um, trying to think, is there if they could do? You were saying about this on Twitter. Do you want another Dark Shadows movie?
I would be fine with it. I would hope that there would be more. That and I wouldn't even mind. And I know this might hopefully not get anyone to unsubscribe to you. So don't punish Resident of Colorado over my comment. I wouldn't even mind Tim Burton being involved in some way, because he got his career started as a set designer, and even when he's made not so good movies, I mean, you can't argue the look is great. I wouldn't even mind him being involved in, from a production standpoint, set design standpoint. Um, but at the same time, I wouldn't mind if there was like an A24 or a Blumhouse version of Dark Shadows. That's who I would really like to see get their hands on the rights of Dark Shadows.
I think with CW doing the series, it's still under Warner Brothers, even though the Dan Curtis estate is going through CW, I think. But
Right,
to me, if Warner Brothers is honestly serious, if they're going to do horror or do Dark Shadows, then know what the product, not just know what Dark Shadows is, but know what is out there and measure it against it and go with a horror story product enough to scare the shit out of people or tell a dramatic story. One or the other.
make it rated R. It needs to be rated R. I'm sorry, but it does.
No, it does. And here's the thing: you go watch those '70s movies we were just saying about. They're bloody enough that it makes you go, "Holy shit!" You know,
Right.
it does. It's
And I
just
think House of Dark Shadows was rated PG or
you,
something like that. So yeah,
right. Rated R is a good thing to be rated like now because you would nowadays. But back
right,
then, right, they got away with a PG rating, and
right,
they're shedding blood like they're Hammer. It's like
exactly.
it's like oh thank God. It's like
Hmm.
you know
And one of my and this isn't reflective of how I feel in real life, but one of my favorite scenes in House of Dark Shadows, and it's horrifying, but it makes me crack up every time, is when um, old man Barnabas just walks in the room and just strangles the cop just like it's nothing. For some reason, I find that funny, and I mean, it was just like, that was just PG, like a regular thing to do. So, and I think that it needs with the violence and the fear factor that it has potential of bringing. I think that it would be a good rated R movie.
I think so too. I'm with you on that scene. One of my favorite scenes right after that is when Maggie just takes off the bandage and is like bite me, bite
Yep,
like oh
right.
shit, like no man,
Her
just leave
scarf
her
of shame.
alone, just leave her alone. But
Exactly.
he doesn't either. He just bites her. What did you
Oh yeah.
What did you think of? I love the fight sequence in the one thing I think we got a little more with Night of Dark Shadows. We got a fight sequence with David Selby, which I loved. What did you think about that?
I loved it, and I loved who would have ever thought that there would be a car chase sequence in a Dark Shadows movie? I love the chase sequence at the end with Gerard driving the truck and John Carlin, in hot pursuit, um, going after him. I thought that was great. I liked the showdown with uh, Quentin and Gerard, because they scuffled a few times in that movie, and I thought it was really great. And I loved the crazy bongo drums that were playing during the car chase scene. Um, I thought that the ending of Night of Dark Shadows was really exciting.
So here's my ranking. At I under slash Barnabas did his ranking on Twitter. Mine's pretty much the same. I got Night number one, House number two, 2012 last. I'm with you. The car chase scene it's something out of you'd see out of an action movie. You wouldn't expect to
Right.
see it in a horror movie,
Hmm.
and I love it. And I love it. It builds to the climax of the fight sequence that happens. I mean,
Right.
that's why I think like out of all these three, Night is probably a lot underrated more than House is. I'd say House of Dark Shadows is more the recognized movie of all three probably. But
Right.
I would implore any Dark Shadows fan to go give Night of Dark Shadows a try and a chance, and definitely check it out for sure.
Right. And
Is there
go ahead.
if you were to bring Dark Shadows to the big screen, is there any one person you would want to play Barnabas on the big screen?
I've mentioned it before. I mean, I know he's all tied in with Disney right
Hmm.
Um, I loved his deep voice. Um, he's got that, of course, the actual English accent, so he would be believable as the cousin from England. Um, and I think he's just got a great look that would fit Barnabas, which I know he's all tied up with Disney now in the Marvel universe, and to get him to play this part would probably be really hard. But the first thing that I ever saw him in was in Star Trek Into Darkness, and I got a lot of Cold Barnabas vibes from that movie while I was watching that movie for the first time. I kept thinking, man, this guy would be great as Barnabas, and I kept picturing him in the Inverness cave with the cane. He's um, a little over 6 feet, so he's a great height to be Barnabas. I think that he would be good, and I'd still have him as my number one casting choice.
That's a very, very, very great choice too. Um, is there with 2012 Dark Shadows movie? Is there? I know we said you felt Barnabas was the most wasted, and I felt Roger, and we said about Julia. Is there? Do you feel? I'm trying to think what to ask. Well, I have two questions in a sense. Number one, is there a character you wish they would have showed more of?
In the 2012 movie, I wish they would have shown. Um, I wish they would have shown Victoria more if they were going to get her character right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I really wish that they would have had Victoria more. Um, we definitely got enough of Angelique and Barnabas. I mean, a satisfying, time length in the movie. I really wish that they would have had Victoria featured a little bit more, especially since they were trying to convince us that there was a love triangle there. Victoria was hardly in the movie, so it just really it was missing her a lot.
Is I wish they would have showed. Now they had the setting. It's a beautiful set movie. But the one thing I wish they would have showed off more would it, and this would have been a way to get Victoria over to your point, would have been have David take her through that house. I think
Yeah,
that's a way to sort of pay tribute to the series and keep the sort of ghost feel alive. If you well, hey, this part of the house is shut off. Well, why?
hmm
And well, we don't talk about it. So I think there's things they could have did with her with the set that they had that would have helped some of these characters. I don't know if it would have helped their entire script that they had,
right,
but it would have helped at least some of their characters.
right. Well,
But
let me ask you something. Do you think that the movie would have worked better if they would have had it as a period piece, like set in the 1700s rather than modern day?
I think this needed to be a three-film set. That's how I'll answer that. I'm not trying to evade the question. I
No,
think
no,
the
that's a good
first
answer.
the first movie needed to be 1795 entirely.
Yeah,
And then the second movie needed to be present day. And by the end of that movie, Barnabas gets out of his coffin, and you hear the knock at the door, and we all know who it is. And the
right.
third movie's your climax. I think that's how Dark Shadows should have been done and needed to be done. And I think if they do it now, it still needs to be done that way because you can pull it off in three movies. That's
Right.
how I feel Dark Shadows should be done.
I agree. I agree. I think it would have worked great as a series. Um, maybe with a one or at least a 1 year window in between. Um, but I think that it would have. I think that it really deserved that because it's Dark Shadows is a very very complex story and deep story, and it's hard to condense it down to 2 hours.
Right.
Um, and there's so much there to tell and to cut it down like they did with the Tim Burton movie what, it was barely over an hour and a half. You just you just can't really even scratch the surface in that amount of time. And or well, in the right hands you could, certainly not mine. But there's just, I'm a fan. I want more. So I love your idea of having at least a 3-film series to tell this one epic story. And I really enjoyed it. But um, do you see? I mean, obviously you and I aren't fans of the movie, and like you said, if you are a fan, that's wonderful. I'm happy. Anyone listening, that you enjoyed the movie, and that there's something special about it that makes you happy. Because God knows we need more happiness in this world. Um, was there something about the movie coming out that maybe made you appreciate the series a little bit more? Maybe the hype of the movie that made you personally feel a little more excitement and love for the series?
There, I'm glad you asked me that. When, you know, a lot of people put heat on Johnny Depp. And, for better or worse, I feel that movie more got made because he attached himself to it.
Yeah,
Uh, and I think he does not get that credit. He, instead of getting the heat he gets, he should get some credit for it. Now, you can look, we can debate the performance, but
right. But it was what he was given, right?
right, he put his name on this, and look, he's a Dark Shadows fan himself, and I do
Right.
think he wanted the best for it. But I think, again, look, if you go back and look at Depp's film schedule, I think a lot of the reasons Dark Shadows got done the way it did was because Depp was filming movie after movie after movie at the time. And
Exactly.
I'm not excusing that. I'm just, that's my, if you go
That's just
back,
the reality of it.
right, it is. He was the busiest dude on the planet. But
Right.
I do think, if you took a time machine and you went back, and do I think they could have did that movie right? Yes. I think they could have. Do I blame Johnny Depp? No, I just, things happened the way they did, and unfortunately we got the product we did that we didn't like. But
Right.
there are those who do like it, and God bless them for liking it.
Hmm. Right. And no matter how I feel about the movie, there is something, special that I have that I am very thankful for. Or actually, a couple of things, with, um, like I said, the internet coming to our area around the same time that the movie did. That's around the time that I got on Twitter. And, nobody where I lived knew about Dark Shadows. Most everybody was into, and there's nothing wrong. I watched a lot of sports like when I was in high school and stuff, but that's mostly what everyone was into. And so, there was nobody else around to talk about Dark Shadows. And so I joined Twitter shortly after this movie came out, and I got to interact with other Dark Shadows fans. They were talking about the movie, that they liked it, that they disliked it. It was just nice feeling like I had friends that I had things in common with. And for that, I'm forever grateful to the movie, because it gave me someone to talk to, people to talk to about things that I liked. And I very, very much owe this movie that. And it just so happens that one of the friends that I met, um, we were best friends for a while, and then it's who I ended up marrying August 4th last year. So, if it hadn't been for that movie coming out and the hype around Dark Shadows building to what it was, I wouldn't have known my wife that, that I'm happily married to now. So, in that respect, I owe the movie that much thanks for, for that. Um, and that's why as much as I have problems with the script, I am thankful that the movie came out for that reason, and it introduced a lot of people. It was a gateway to the show that you and I know is better, and to the other two movies that we like. Um, it was a good gateway for fans of that movie to say, hey, this is, I'm glad you like this, but there's a better TV show that this was based on. Why don't you try, you know, giving this a watch and see, you know, what this was based on? And it was a great way to introduce fans of the movie into a show that they had never seen, or some of them probably didn't know that it was based on a TV show. They just saw that it was a Tim Burton movie with Johnny Depp in it, and that's all they needed to know to buy a ticket. So um, for that, I'll give the movie that, and say that even though I wasn't happy with the finished product, I'm glad that it came out.
I think that's the thing, any kind of product, good or bad, is going to get people talking or introduce an entire new fan base that didn't know about the old fan base or old product to go back and watch. And I think, if anything, you're right, the 2012 movie has done that. And that's the greatest thing it did. It got a younger audience involved in
Right.
what we have now. And above all else, we welcome all fans of DS. Like, look, come talk to us, please, because we're lonely sons of
Absolutely.
bitches. But
I hear you, man. I hear you. But yeah, I love. Uh, I started. I started my Barnabas Twitter. I closed down my other one that I had to begin with, but that I started in 2012. I started the Barnabas in 2013, and I've loved interacting with fans and um, meeting different fans, and it's been great. It's been really really wonderful. Just I've made friends that I've had ever since day one. Um, it's been really really nice, really really nice.
it is. It's nice to interact with other fans, just in general, just to be able to reach out and talk to them. And I think that's the greatest thing we can do with Dark Shadows is just talk about it, for better or worse. Whether
Hmm.
you like a certain aspect of it or not. It's even, whether it's the Leviathan arc or this arc in a series or the movies themselves. There's always
Hmm.
going to be something we either like or dislike about a product, no matter whether it's DS, Halloween, Friday the
Hmm.
13th, and so forth.
Right.
It
Exactly.
it's a part of any franchise that exists. And that's the one beauty part about it is we can just all talk about it and not bitch at each other about
Exactly. Unfortunately, with the internet, of course, that has come,
right.
and unfortunately, there's been some fans that have got out of hand, and you just kind of put some distance, between yourself because it it shouldn't be toxic like that.
No,
Just because someone likes something or dislikes something. I mean, I'm vocal about things that I like and dislike, um, but I mean, it's not a personal attack against anyone,
no,
and no one should personally attack someone else that likes something because just like with we were talking, um, I didn't have a lot of friends. And the 2012 movie was something special for me that got me, connected to the woman that I would marry, and some friends, and it's special to me for that reason. And that's something very personal that I really needed at the time when I really didn't have anyone to talk to. And there's other people, you never know what other people are going through. We only see, you know, the text that they type through Twitter every day, and we don't really know what's going on behind that screen. And something that they watched, like the 2012 Dark Shadows movie or a storyline in Dark Shadows, it's something that they connect with, and it's something that is an escape from them that you know pulls them out of bad circumstances that they're in and makes them feel happy. No one has a right to bash them for liking something that they like, something that brings them happiness and brings them joy. So, I guess maybe this just in my way, it's a PSA that everyone should be nice to each other.
Right, I
Don't
agree.
insult someone because they do like something, because you never know what they're going through. What they like is something special and personal to them. And I think that's for the most part, I think Dark Shadows fans are pretty good. Um, and with the hate for the 2012 movie kind of dying down, and there's some time that's it's been 7 years now. I think people are a lot kinder than they used to be. Um, but I think all in all, Dark Shadows fans are pretty good.
Here's what I'll say too. For those who are gonna watch it and not like it, like we did, like we didn't like the 2012 movie. Look, I've ranted about it like once, but again, it sometimes film is frustration too, you know.
Hmm.
But it's one thing to be frustrated about the film, but don't get frustrated with fans of the film. That's
Right.
key.
That's exactly right. That is 100% correct.
Here's a great example too. We like Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. Look,
Oh yeah.
there are people who don't.
Yeah, I've heard of a few that don't. Yeah, there's a few.
Right. It is what it is. Look, if you don't like it, that's fine. No one's going to force anyone to like something. But to the fans that don't don't bully the fans that do like it. And vice versa.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
just is what it is what it is. Basically what I'm saying is if you're going to talk to fans, talk to them. Don't
That's right.
troll them.
Right. That's exactly right. So, well, let me ask you this: if they start a new TV series, would you want it to start off, or even if they announce that they were going to do a new film, would you want it to start right away with Barnabas?
A film should lead to Barnabas if you're starting in 1795.
Hmm.
I'll explain in a second, but for the series, I want them to be as patient as John Philip Betancourt was with his series. Shout out to him. I know I plug him, but listen, he waited till series 3 to reveal Barnabas. I'm not saying wait 3 seasons, obviously, but at least wait till after season 2 or the beginning of season 2.
Right.
Be patient with that vampire, because I think if you let Barnabas out the first episode, all characters are gone. you know,
Yeah.
like
True.
you know what I mean.
True.
It's such a huge spotlight of a character, and we all know it. And I think that's the perfect way to do it for me. Now, for a movie, introduce Barnabas by before you introduce Barnes, introduce his father, and then from his father you meet him.
Hmm.
Do it that way, and that way you have a family connection. I've said this before. I've sort of I'm I'm God. I don't know how many fucking stories I'm writing, but I'm sort of like in between all these other stuff, and I started cheat writing where it's Dr. Joshua Collins, and he comes home from helping somebody, getting surgically fixing somebody up, and he comes home to his son and his daughter and his wife, and his
Hmm.
his brother is the one that runs the shipping business, Jeremiah. So
Right.
that there's the money, and here's this doctor who loves helping people, and the only thing he can't seem to do is cure his son of vampirism, and you tell that story to me.
Oh, that's good.
you know
Uh-huh.
Wrestle with the emotion of here's this doctor, he's saved lives, but he can't save the ones he loves, and
Right.
that's the most painful part of life sometimes. We all go through loss, and it's when you
Right.
watch someone die, it's like, God, what could I have, the first question, what could I have done?
What could I have done? Yeah.
That's human nature, and that's something you could portray in a fictional series as well, or a movie.
and that everyone can relate to, because you know that's something that everyone feels.
Right. What do you think? Do you think that they, with a series or movie, they should introduce him right away, or?
I think that I think I agree 100%. Like you said, that they need to they need to save Barnabas. And the best example I could give it, and this would be a whole other video, hopefully, that we'll get to do sometime soon. One thing I loved about the Star Wars sequel, The Force Awakens, we knew that Luke Skywalker was going to be in the movie at some point, and we didn't know when. And I loved how they did it. That he was in it for like 15 seconds, the final 15 seconds of the movie, and it let you get to know all the other characters, and let them develop, let you get introduced to them, and let them have their arcs, and then we lead into the main one that everyone wanted to see. Um, and he didn't even have a line in the movie. You just saw him. And I thought that was a very, very powerful moment at the end of The Force Awakens. And I think that would be a great guideline for a Dark Shadows movie if they decided to do that. To have, let you meet the family, let everyone develop some, have some screen time, some good development, good arcs, and then you can go into your main attraction that everyone is looking for.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. 1000% correct. I think that you need to let the other characters breathe, but then, the one thing too is what's so unique about Dark Shadows is the portraits in that house have always been the forefront. You don't need to mention Barnabas. All you need to do is zone in on that portrait every now and again. You know who he's coming eventually.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And see, if, like you said, if they brought Barnabas on first thing, then nobody would be paying attention to anyone but him. And they would want to see what Barnabas is going to be doing. And I think that it would be good to save him for at least the end of the first movie, to let everyone focus on the other characters and let them have their moments. I think that would be a very, very wise decision if they were going to make another Dark Shadows movie.
Right. It's sort of like Halloween, okay? Once Michael Myers gets on screen, that's it. That's all I want to see. That's
Right.
right, it's
Exactly.
like the hell with everyone else.
Exactly.
But
Exactly. And that's how I was with again, another Star Wars reference, the movie Rogue One.
right.
The whole movie I was rooting for the rebels and their spies, but that minute that Dark Shadows, Darth Vader showed up in the hallway at the end, I turned on all the rebels and I wanted to see a body count. I wanted to see Darth Vader go to town and rack up a body count. I didn't care about them anymore. So I think that it's the same way when how you feel about Michael Myers when he comes on screen. I want to see some stuff going down.
It,
And
so the
I
moment
just
Darth Vader
I
came
love
on
it.
screen, you kissed the Sith Lord ring. I'm very proud of you.
Yes, very much, very much, very, very much. So I mean, that was such a good scene, and I loved seeing him going to town on them. But okay, let me get into something I meant to ask you earlier on before my phone decided to act up like it did. Um, some fan theories on, or your opinions on some things in House of Dark Shadows. One of the things that I always thought was interesting about House of Dark Shadows, when you get Barnabas explaining to Willie his backstory. There was no Angelique in this timeline um, to place the vampire curse on him, and so Barnabas tells Willie. He says specifically, he says, when they put this curse on me, he was saying that I wasn't able to fall in love. That you know, who was they? So what do you feel about that? Do you have any idea, like, what might have happened?
I have somewhat of a theory on this. It's a very
Okay,
thin one.
okay,
And again, when we talk here, these are our opinions. I
right,
always, I
right,
always stress this in any video I do. My opinion of this is the Dupre family. I feel Josette was a runaway. I feel she came to America without her parents' consent. And that can be the damnedest thing. And I think they followed her. And if Natalie Dupre is anything like she was in the series, and she remember she dwelled in tarot cards. Well,
right.
take the tarot cards and add some black magic, and you got yourself a family witch. I think Natalie Dupre and the Dupre family put the curse on Barnabas.
That's a great theory. I never even thought about Natalie. That's a great theory.
You got
I like
anyone?
that.
You got any ones? That's the only one I've ever thought about.
I actually do, and I'm not trying to plug anything I've done on your channel because you and
Please,
John are
pl-
great in
listen.
fan fiction
Please,
and world building.
please do. Please plug stuff, man. I approve it.
Okay, okay, thank you. Um, you and John. Well, I'll first start this off by saying you and John, um, you guys have done amazing writing with your world building and taking Dark Shadows and you know going forward with it. One thing I've always liked to do and has always come naturally to me is I love filling in gaps and writing a lot of side stories that connect plot holes and different storylines together, like the whole thing about Bert Devlin's death, um, and just different things. And I actually wrote a story, a fan fiction story that connects House of Night of Dark Shadows, and I wrote a third. What I took that story and made a third movie out of it on fan fiction. But um, a theory that I came up with, and this was just a backstory. I wrote that Joshua Collins. Okay, see, one of my favorite villain in the whole Dark Shadows series, saga, whatever, was Judah Zachary. He was one evil person. Angelique was terrified of him, and
Mm-hmm.
for Angelique to be afraid of someone, you've got to be a scary dude. And I always loved the character of Judah Zachary. I thought he was a great villain. So I wrote, it was like a 3 chapter uh, fan fiction story that was in the form of a diary, and it was one of Judah Zachary's disciples. And in the story, I wrote that Joshua Collins, Barnabas' father, was a judge in the town, and that they sentenced Judah Zachary to death. And so, as an act of revenge, his disciples got together and summoned the familiar, the Bat Familiar, to place the curse on Barnabas as an act of revenge for Joshua killing um, Judah Zachary. So they used Barnabas, and I made Barnabas in this story. I made Barnabas a lot more of a likable person, um, as a means to destroy the Collins family and bring them down because everyone would be ashamed of them, and think that they were the high and mighty Collins family, and the fact that they would have a vampire living in their house, everyone, that would bring shame and disgrace. So not only would Barnabas be savage and kill them off, but it would bring shame and disgrace to them also if the secret got out. So that was my theory. So that maybe the Joshua was a judge and sentenced Judah Zachary to death, and as an act of revenge, his disciples and followers got together and cast a spell on Barnabas as an act of revenge to bring down the family, and not only that, to have revenge on the whole town because you can't keep rage like that like Barnabas was in House of Dark Shadows. He was a lot more savage and animalistic than he was in the show, and he couldn't be contained just to the Collinwood mansion. He would come out to the town and wreak havoc on the town. So that was my kind of way ways to fill in that gap, and I thought might be a viable backstory to they putting the curse on him. So, but that was just that was just my little fan fiction thing that I wrote. Take it or leave it. It is what it is. It's not. It's certainly not better than yours. I love the idea of it being Natalie and the Dupre family.
I'll take it, man. The Zach, I could see it definitely. Judah Zachary doing that and his followers doing that. They were very obsessed and loyal to the. It's Judah Zachary was almost like what's the guy Charles Manson followers in a
Mm-hmm.
way. So I could
Mm-hmm.
see them going to that extent. I think that's very good idea. Don't sell yourself short, man, at all.
Well, that's what I had as my third movie was um, and kind of like what happened with the end of 1970 and the 1995 storyline for the third movie was that Judah Zachary returned, and that that it had to do with him, and David was the only surviving member of the family in House of Dark Shadows. He was the only one that you didn't see get killed, and so it was about David having to try to find a way to take the house back. A few years had passed, and try to find a way to defeat Judah Zachary. And I also had threw in Jeff and Maggie, and tried to fit them in the story. You know, after what they went through, how could you ever be normal again with Barnabas attacking them like they did, him controlling Maggie and having her under his spell. Just I tried to put all of that into one story to make a third movie, but I've always loved Judah Zachary and wanted to fit him in somewhere. Um, but yeah, that was my take on it. It was a little dark, um, because like you said, it was a lot like the Manson and the Manson family. So it went to a little bit more dark places than I normally write. Just kind of PG rated fan fiction. But um, yeah, that was just what I took from it, just as a possible means for Barnabas's vampire curse, because this timeline was wildly different than the TV show.
I like it. I think that's such a unique way to look at it. I mean, here's the thing, and I've said this with writers, all writers, be different, and that's definitely something you were with that. I enjoyed that very much. That sounds pretty cool, man.
Oh well,
Um,
thank you. I
definitely. I
appreciate it.
mean,
Thank you.
that's it's very creative what you did. You took a character and you added a whole new sort of story to a pre-existing one. It's never easy to come up with concept. I think that's where a lot of people might get lost. It's instead of, it, it's never easy, and you took an idea and you made a whole new idea, and that's so cool, man. I enjoy
Thank you.
fan fiction stories to death.
I do too.
I think the more people can create, the better off you are. I think if don't be afraid to express feelings on a page, or characters a character feeling that I think that's just what fan fiction is. Fan fiction is the ultimate expression of our love for the franchise and
Right.
what we feel should be added here or there. And I think that's definitely something I appreciate, not just but from John's writings, but I've read your stuff, man. You're very
Oh,
good.
thank you.
Don't
Thank you. I
don't
appreciate it.
do not sell yourself short, man.
Well, I appreciate it. I mean, coming from you, that means a lot. I really appreciate that because you and John are fantastic.
Well, here's the thing. When I was writing my Dark Shadow story with Kiki, I
Hmm.
can't tell you how many times like I changed things, from a standpoint of change, because what was going to happen to Kiki was there wasn't going to be a Barnabas in my story. It was just going to be Quentin. That
Yeah.
Quentin ended up saving her from being sold off as a as a sex slave, and that what happened was that Sabin Beck was the villain in my story for the first part, and he ended up kidnapping her against her will, and Connor got killed, and there was no one to help her, and Quentin just stumbles upon her and helps her, and I changed a lot of that. That never happens in my story, but it was one of my original concepts for the story of her going to Paris. She goes to Paris to find Quentin, to find what she believes is a descendant of Quentin. She has no
Right.
idea the real Quentin. The original Quentin is the only one. but
Right.
but
Right.
it's again, we can't be afraid to just try things, and I think that's the one thing I appreciate from not just John's stories, yours, and just when I write, it's just like there's times I'll say literally fuck it, throw it in there, why not?
Exactly.
It can't,
Exactly.
hurt. It's fiction. I've told my wife, I said, I've killed so many people with Michael Myers. It's like I feel like I'm getting away with murder without doing it. But it's so
That's true.
that's the fun of it. It's just, and I think the more fun we have as writers, it's just fun being a fan and write. So
Yeah.
that's just my take on it. Before we get going, is there anything you would like to add?
Um, I would say definitely watch all three movies.
Right.
Um, you know, give it a try.
Ah, here it. What happened? Did we lose them? There, we're signing off and we lost them. And my just went dead. What happened here? Uh, uh, Hold on a second, guys. I'm gonna try to get him back. Yeah, because I can't type in him. I hope this goes through. Skype will crash, folks. It happens. It happens to us all. It does too. Skype will crash on you, just like this. Skype will crash, and when it crashes hard. That's no. Uh, it's the pros and cons of Skyping, is what it is. It really is. So I'm hoping to get him back on here to give our send off here, because I do want to give a send off right. I under slash Barnabas. He's a very, very nice guest to bring on here. Oh, come on. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Yeah. Now are we back on there? There we go. Let's see if we can get him back real quick before we. And cut off. There we go. Yeah, sorry about that. Skype just crashed. But
Yeah, yeah, I noticed that too. So I thought it was something to do.
no, this is the pros and cons of Skype, and man, Skype will crash. But go ahead and finish the send off, man. Go ahead.
Okay, I was just saying, I hope that I'm not messing up your video. I'm so sorry about all this.
No, mine crashed on mine end too. So
Okay.
uh,
But yeah, what were your last thoughts on to take away that you wanted everyone? I don't know if mine came through or not, but
you were yeah you were saying about everybody should go watch the three Dark Shadows movies. Um, I agree, definitely. I think that's the one thing. Go give them a try, whether you like them or not. It. Look,
right,
we welcome all open opinions and forums. Just you don't have
that's
to,
right.
but you do not have to be mean with other people who do like the product.
That's right. And even if you don't like the movies, there's something there to like about all three. There is something in there for everyone. Whether it's you love like the beautiful scenery in the movies, the music of the 2012 movie. You might even like the script and think it's really funny. That might be your sense of humor. I mean, it's not going to hurt you. It's just a movie, so give it a try.
Oh, I agree 100%. I think, these movies, at least go give them a chance and watch them. But again, walk away with your own point of view. I think that's what film is, everyone's own point of view. And that being said, I want to thank at @Islander/Barnabas for his patience.
Oh no, thank you for yours.
That listen, Skype. Listen to anybody who Skypes. We